Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Welcome to Bacon Knight's Preview Review. I'm Sean Brett, aka The Bacon Knight. And this is the show where I take a look at the upcoming movies of the week and I let you know if they're going to be any good based on nothing but the trailers. Hey, if you're old to the show, thanks for coming back. If you're new to the show, thanks for joining. This is episode 300 for those keeping track at home. And wow, 300! That's 300 consecutive weeks of me posting this show. I've yet to miss a week, even through some kind of troubling times in my life. And joyous times, but I've still managed every week to put up a show, so thanks for listening. This week, there are 3 movies coming out that I'm gonna talk about. The Best of Enemies, Pet Cemetery, and Shazam! You have to say it like that because of the exclamation point. I'm also gonna talk about Captain Marvel box office, the Joker teaser trailer, a Twitter story, and the Child's Play remake. But before I get into all that, I'd like to remind you that you can follow me on Twitter at Bacon Knight. Alright, so let's talk about that Captain Marvel box office. Now, Captain Marvel has crossed the $1 billion mark. This is a movie that a lot of people, before it came out, were predicting that it was going to have a poor opening weekend. There's no way it's coming close to $1 billion, and there it is, $1 billion. Now, I know a lot of people claim that, hey, a good box office doesn't necessarily mean a good movie, and that's true depending, I guess, on your opinion. Like, there are definitely movies that have crossed the $1 billion mark that I think are just like a steaming pile of dog shit. Transformers, anyone? Uh, but one thing that you can't deny is that when a movie makes $1 billion, people liked it. I mean, they're not going out and seeing it multiple times and suggesting it to their friends and, if they think it's bad. So people obviously liked Captain Marvel, even if, you didn't. So congratulations to Marvel. And this might end up being a really monster year for Marvel. You got Captain Marvel hit the $1 billion. Avengers Endgame is probably going to hit $2 billion, just based off the fact that Infinity War made $2 billion. And Endgame tickets went on sale this week and they crashed a whole bunch of websites. And after just being up for like 6 hours, it was being reported that Endgame was outpacing the Force Awakens pre-sale tickets, which is crazy. And then we have Spider-Man Far From Home coming out in July. Spider-Man Homecoming made $880 million. So, this being a sequel to a movie that a lot of people liked, plus it's coming off of Endgame, it is very possible that it gets a bump in the box office as well. They're also introducing Mysterio, so that's got a lot of people excited. So it's very possible that Spider-Man Far From Home also hits the $1 billion mark. So that means that Marvel will make $4 billion off of 3 movies. That's unprecedented. That's insane. It's hard enough for a studio to make a movie that hits $1 billion, but to do it 3 times in a year is just unprecedented, and it's going to show what the powerhouse is. And I mean, even if Far From Home doesn't hit $1 billion, they're going to be close. Like, if it just performs as well as Homecoming did, they're going to be less than $200 million shy from a $4 billion profit. I mean, it's technically not all profit because, there's a difference between what they brought in and they get to subtract what they paid for and all that stuff. But anyways, they're going to be just 200 million short, or under 200 million short, of bringing in $4 billion based off of 3 movies. That's insane. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, hey, people like these movies. I know some people aren't down with the MCU, but people love them. I love them. I'm somebody who loves the MCU movies, and if they can keep putting out these powerhouse movies that make tons of money, I mean, there's no way they're ever going to stop making these movies. Let's see, moving on, we got a teaser trailer, even though it was still over 2 minutes long. I don't understand why they call these things teaser trailers anymore. But we got a teaser trailer for Joker, which is the standalone Joker origin movie. It looks dark. It looks very cool. You have Joaquin Phoenix. Oh my God, I said his name right. That's the first time ever. But anyways, you have Joaquin Phoenix plays the Joker, and he looks to be doing a hell of a job of it. We get to see what makes the Joker and his journey. And now, from what I've been reading and what everybody is saying, that this movie is not part of the DC extended universe. It is a standalone Elseworld story, if you want to use that phrasing. And as much as I like the whole connected universe thing, like Warner Brothers has kind of effed up the DCEU so much that going back to standalone films is the only way we were ever going to get, movies like Joker. And it looks pretty good. It's one of those comic book movies that if you don't need to be a comic book fan to like. It just looks very good. I mean, Todd Phillips is directing it and writing it. He does come from a comedy background, which is interesting. But he did movies like The Hangover, super comedic movies, and then he started getting a little bit more serious and a little bit darker with like War Dogs. Is that what it's called? Yeah, War Dogs. And so it's almost like, now he's going to make a movie about a guy who goes from being a comedian into a psychopathic killer. So that's kind of interesting. But Joker comes out on October 4th, and I think it looks pretty good. Now, whenever a comic book movie trailer comes out, it always sparks another round of the Marvel versus DC war. And you see insults and hot takes being thrown around like hand grenades. I saw people loving on this trailer like this film was on par with Citizen Kane, even though they haven't seen the movie yet. But and then I've seen the whole other side of the spectrum where people saying that this movie is only for violent white male incels and that this movie will ensure that Trump gets reelected. So lots of crazy stuff always comes out. Lots of crazy hot takes always come out when these trailers drop. Now, I saw this one guy on Twitter, and I follow him, and he follows me. I'll throw his name out there. It was the Flightcast. I guess he's a podcast. But he was tweeting a bunch the day that the Joker trailer came out about MCU brainwashing. And then I see that he quotes this guy's criticism of the Joker trailer and claims that, this guy just has an MCU mindset and that's damaging, the way cinema is being seen. Now the guy's criticism was just a list. And it said, I'll read it. It said, everything about this seems bad. We don't need to know Joker's backstory. Leans way too much into the clown thing. Joker without Batman is unnecessary. I guess a 70s period piece because reasons. Feels like another step backwards for DC. Now, you don't have to agree with that guy's assessment, and I don't agree with it. But when the Filmcast retweeted this guy's tweet and then used it as an example of how the MCU has changed people's way of thinking about movies, and now he even regrets liking some of the MCU movies, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. This guy's list didn't have anything to do with the MCU. He didn't bring it up. He didn't compare it. He just isn't digging the Joker movie, and that's fine, right? So I questioned the Flightcast about this, and he told me that it didn't matter if this guy was or was not an MCU fan. He was talking about the mindset of this guy. So I responded by saying, so you don't agree with his take, so you just assumed that the MCU must have brainwashed him. Then the Flightcast tells me that he never said anything like that, and good luck trying to find where he has said that. So I went back, and back to a tweet from just a couple hours before where he said the MCU brainwashing is real. And I screenshotted it, and then I showed it to him. So he told me that tweet is, it's not from this thread, and he wasn't referencing this man directly when he wrote that. And if I want to know what that tweet was about, then he suggested that I comment on that tweet. So basically, he puts up some bullshit. I called him on his bullshit. Then he claims that there is a valid explanation for his bullshit, but refused to tell me what that explanation is unless I play this little game of his and go back and ask that question on his previous tweet. Now, he could have just told me what he meant by that tweet right there and then, but he didn't. Maybe that's because he was talking out of his ass. Now, I could have just let it go at this point and just chalk it up to this guy just being an idiot. But then I looked at the rest of the thread, and there were a lot of people calling him out on his bullshit. And he responded to all of them, not by explaining his position, but by claiming that they were all too stupid to understand his point. So, this is something I see coming from DC fanboys all the time. Like, if you don't like DC movies or you don't like their opinion, it's not because you have a different taste in films, it's because you are dumb. The best example of this is if you didn't like the Martha scene in Batman v Superman, it's because you're obviously not intelligent enough to understand it. So since the Flightcast didn't seem to want to explain his unwarranted attack against the MCU to anyone, it made me kind of really want to get this explanation out of the guy. Like, what is your, you say that you have a valid explanation for this opinion. I would like to hear it. So I played his game. I went back to his previous tweet about the MCU brainwashing, and I asked him if this tweet was in reference to people's, trailer reactions for the Joker. And for example, this guy's take, and then I posted a screen grab of the guy who made that critical list I was just talking about that he, brought up. So did the Flightcast, now seeing that I was playing his game and I did exactly what he told me to do if I wanted him to explain himself, go ahead and give me his explanation? Of course he didn't. He just called me a dick and then blocked me. Now, we always hear about toxic fandom, okay? And people claim, you see people all the time saying like, oh, the DC fans are the toxic ones, and, other people saying, no, the MCU fans are the toxic ones. The real answer is that there are toxic people on both sides. And it's very easy to just cherry pick those toxic people out because they're the loudest of the bunch. So you just cherry pick those toxic people out, and then you use them as a blanket to demonize the other side as a whole. But in this instance with this guy, like I wasn't rude to him. He just put something out there, and if you question him on it, you're stupid. So I mean, I don't know. I guess I would ask this question: what is more toxic? A man making a list of reasons why he's not digging on an upcoming film, a list that did not include any insults or comparisons to other films or fandoms, or attacks on, anybody's intelligence, or someone taking that list, claiming the list maker is too dumb to have his own opinion, and anyone that disagrees with my assessment of the list maker's mindset is too stupid for me to have a conversation with. So, I don't know. I mean, what do you think is more toxic? I tend to think the Flightcast is the one being a little bit toxic in this situation, and the fact that he absolutely refuses to defend his position, and if you push him on it, he just blocks you, I think confirms that. So, another casualty to the Marvel vs. DC war. See you, Flightcast. I guess you'll never see anything I tweet out ever again. If you want to join in on that fun, you can follow me on Twitter at Bacon Knight. Let's do a little sequel, prequel, reboot, remake news real quick. The Child's Play remake. So if you needed something to really push you over the edge to go see the new Child's Play remake, it was announced this week that Mark Hamill will voice the new Chucky. So that's crazy. He does a lot. If you're unaware of his voice acting, Mark Hamill does tons of voice acting, most famously the Joker on Batman the Animated Series, but he does tons of voice work. Now, he's not just Luke Skywalker. He is, he's the voice of tons of your favorite stuff. And now, I haven't been too excited about the Child's Play remake because, because of all this behind the scenes BS, I've talked about it on other shows. You can go and read a lot more in depth about it if you're really interested. A lot of people have written and done podcasts and written stuff about it. But when they dropped the trailer, I did think that it looked pretty good, and I believe I tweeted out that I was still holding out hopes that the two different Chuckies will have a crossover movie event at some point. So Mark Hamill voicing Chucky is very cool, but it doesn't really change my opinion on the movie. It's still, it looked good. Him, I don't think I was ever going to go see it in the theater, and now with Mark Hamill attached, I'm still not going to go see it in the theater, but I'll probably check it out later on when it pops up on a streaming service. But I'm not totally against the Chucky remake. It's just that the whole thing is that, the studio kind of screwing over the original creator of Chucky because legally they own the rights to the first film just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And, even if the movie turns out to be one of the best horror films ever made this, in the last 20 years, it's still going to be like, yeah, but you guys dicked over the creator of this property to do a cash grab. So there's that. So hey, that's it for news. Let's get into these preview reviews. The first preview review, the first movie I got is called The Best of Enemies. The synopsis from IMDb on this one is a civil rights activist Ann Atwater faces off against C.P. Ellis, exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan, in 1971 Durham, North Carolina, over the issue of school integration. So here is the trailer for The Best of Enemies.
Ann Atwater.
Last night, an electrical fire destroyed East End Elementary School.
Mama, where are we gonna go to school now?
Mama gonna find you somewhere real nice to go.
Not gonna have black kids going to temp school.
Oh, come on. They're gonna put them somewhere.
Mississippi putting it down. I'm the hottest round.
We gonna beat school segregation once and for all.
Listen to me now.
You better get your ass down to City Hall tonight. Who's next?
They say you represent a great many people in this town.
He'd be right about that.
I'm holding a committee meeting. The council will vote to either adopt or reject school integration. I need two co-chairs, you and Ann Atwater.
Ann Atwater. I'm the president of the Klan. He's about to hand you the keys to school integration, and you're gonna lock the door.
You hear?
Would you look at that crazy white man?
Folks in this town want blacks to stay in their own schools. I'm here to protect my family, so all the better is you don't get in my way.
Well, I'm gonna get in your way.
We're here trying to understand each other for once and stop fighting.
This here does the talking for me.
I have a rival.
Well, then you ought to know.
No, what?
Same God made you, made me.
But sometimes there are necessary evils for the greater good.
You didn't have to do that. You should have told me.
As long as the C.P. Ellises of the world keep getting their way, ain't nothing gonna change.
She looked at me like I got some kind of monster.
What'd you expect?
I'm talking about
I'm the president of the Klan. I'm supposed to hate black folks. Now, if I don't believe that, then I got a problem.
Now, what we talking about is important, and you gon' damn well listen to us.
She's in a bad mood today.
talking about home.
All right, so that was the trailer for The Best of Enemies. Now, in this movie, you have... I'm going to say her name wrong. I always do. But it's Taraji P. Henderson. Cookie from Empire. She plays Ann Atwater. And then you have Sam Rockwell. He plays C.P. Ellis, the Cyclops of the Klan. Which is, I don't know whoever came up with these names, but there's like dragons and cyclopses and stuff. The Klan must love D&D. And anyways, and if being the president or the Cyclops of the Klan isn't enough for you to know that this guy is not a good person. There are also several shots in this trailer of him smoking a cigarette, and he is also smoking on the movie poster. You know, back in the day, smoking in movies is what, like, the cool character did, and now just like all the old Disney cartoons, only bad guys smoke. Anyways, this is the story about desegregating schools in North Carolina. You know, I think movies like this are important, you know, just for the sake of people understanding that this stuff was happening, you know, not that long ago in our history. Like, the idea of segregated schools seems so crazy that I think a lot of younger people just assume that desegregation happened a really long time ago. But this happened in 1971. That's only 48 years ago. Now, I don't really know the particulars of this story, which is also an important reason why this story is being told, because I don't think a lot of people do know the particulars of this story. But it looks like it looks like from the trailer, you know, this is a story of this Klan leader guy being forced to work with a black woman, and then eventually learning that, like, he was wrong in his thinking all along. And it kind of goes to prove the point that a lot of these people that are hateful are just kind of isolated from the rest of the world. Like, they keep to themselves in their own little bubble, their own little world of hate, and they don't let anybody else in. And if you could somehow just crack through that bubble and open their eyes, like, maybe they would see that, oh, I am really wrong on what I was thinking. It does look like a good movie, a very important movie, and it looks entertaining as well. Now, you know, I'm sure after this movie comes out, there's going to be a bunch of, like, things they got wrong videos on YouTube, but don't let that detract from the lesson that it's trying to teach. I think these types of movies, you know, they have to walk a fine line. They're dealing with a pretty serious issue, but they don't want to come off as preachy because that can turn people off. And it doesn't turn people off because they don't agree with the message, you know, or the premise of the film, or that they're necessarily bad people or anything like that. It's just sometimes you don't feel like going to the movies to get a lecture. You know, you don't like to sit there and be like, you guys were bad. America was bad. You know, like, yeah, we did bad things. We know that. Like, you just need to present your topic in a way that doesn't seem like you're shaming people and allow them to take in your message. And I think this movie looks like it's going to do a good job of doing that. There are even some moments of lightness and humor in this trailer. Now, you know, whenever a movie like this that comes out about a very serious topic like race, there's always talks about it, you know, how's it going to do at the Oscars. That always seems to be like Oscar bait. Like, if you make a movie about race, that's Oscar bait. Now, I don't know if this movie's going to be Oscar worthy, but if it is, I think that it would be really funny if Sam Rockwell could pick up another Oscar for playing a racist. Like, he won an Oscar for his performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, where he's like that racist, dumb deputy. And who, you know, I guess he kind of comes around at the end to not be such an asshole, is what we're supposed to take away from that. So it'd be kind of funny if now he's playing, you know, the president of the Ku Klux Klan who sees the errors in his ways and comes around to not being such an asshole, and he wins another Oscar. That would be interesting. I think that'd be kind of funny. Anyways, this movie I think looks good. I'm definitely going to check it out. So I'm going to give The Best of Enemies, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 Rascals. I think it looks good. I think it looks entertaining. I think it looks informative. I think it has a good message. It's going to be well acted. You have good actors in there. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good movie. All right, so the next movie we have is Pet Sematary. And the synopsis of that from IMDb is Dr. Lewis Creed and his wife Rachel relocate from Boston to rural Maine with their 2 young children. The couple soon discovers a mysterious burial ground hidden deep in the woods near their home. All right, so here is the trailer for Pet Sematary.
In the woods today, LA discovered a charming little landmark.
The Pet Cemetery.
Place to bury our pets and remember them. Might seem scary, but it's not. Perfectly natural. Just like dying is natural.
Old Town's been using this place for generations. Folks make a kind of ritual out of it. It's not some campfire story.
Saw these in the trees up there.
They're warnings. The local tribes carved them before they fled. They fear that place. There's something up there. Something that dates way back. Those woods belong to something else. Something
That cat was dead.
that brings things back.
Church?
I know what you're thinking of doing. But they don't come back the same.
Daddy.
What's going on?
Hug your daughter. I should never have shown you that place. Your child is not the only thing that will come back. The barrier is broken.
We have a second chance.
Sometimes dead is better.
Alright, so that was the trailer for Pet Sematary, and this is a remake of the 1989 Stephen King movie of the same name. And we all knew that after It was a hit, these remakes were going to start popping up. But the question is, can they reinvent Pet Sematary to the same level of success that It did? Now, I've never read a Stephen King book. And for the most part, I'm not a fan of the films based on his movies. I like the original It miniseries with Tim Curry as Pennywise. I really like The Mist. But that's about it when it comes to his horror stories. Like, you know, the more drama pieces like The Green Mile and The Shawshank Redemption are awesome. Which, strangely enough, both of those movies were directed by Frank Darabont. And then Frank Darabont also directed The Mist. So maybe I'm just like a Frank Darabont fan. Anyways, I really did like the It remake. And, you know, this one looks a heck of a lot better than the original film. The original film, I don't remember the original film too much. I just remember that, like, when I think it's the wife has the flashback and, like, her sister's all creepy and, like, invalid in the bed and, like, turns her head and you're like, oh my god! Like, that's pretty much the only thing I remember from the original Pet Sematary movie. So it didn't really have a lasting effect on me. But this one's looking pretty good. Now, the story, if you don't know, is, you know, this family moves into the town, their cat dies, they bury it in this Indian burial ground that's back in the woods. Cat comes back, you know, but it's kind of like evil. Then the family's child is hit by a truck and killed. In the original, it was their toddler son. And for some reason, I'm completely blanking. I don't remember if in the original they had another kid. I was kind of only thinking they had one kid in the original movie. I'm not sure, but now they have two kids, and they have a little toddler son, but then they have a daughter who's a little bit older, maybe like 6 or something like that, 6, 7. But the daughter is the one who gets hit by the car in this one. And they bury her, and then she comes back, but she's evil. This also seems to go further than the original movie, saying that, like, you know, barrier has been broken, and maybe meaning that, like, more stuff is going to be coming out of this evil that's been unleashed. But I think they're doing a good job of making this look pretty creepy. Like, the kid is wearing, like, a creepy bunny mask. You know, John Lithgow's in this. He plays the neighbor that tells the family about the cemetery, because that's a good idea. Like, in the trailer, he's like, I should have never told you about that cemetery. No shit. You probably shouldn't tell anybody about that. Like, why are you telling people at all? Why was that ever a good idea for you? Like, it's not like this guy's kid died, and then you're like, I know a way to bring your kid back. It's like, you told him about it when his cat died. Like, stop doing that. He probably tells everybody. Anyways, John Lithgow's in this, and there's a part where he's like walking up the basement steps, and the little girl like has a scalpel and she like slices his Achilles tendon. So that is really gonna freak out a bunch of people, because that's one of those body parts that, like, when you see it get beat up in a movie, you're just like, oh my god. It's like that and fingernails. Holy shit. If you see in a movie where somebody's fingernail breaks off, like, your whole body is just like, oh my god. You know, like, that's how the Achilles tendon is. Like, Jesus Christ, somebody just sliced that, now he's gonna fall, he can't even walk, and she's gonna slowly stab him to death. Oh my god. Anyways, it looks good, and I am a bit surprised. I've always felt Stephen King movies were a bit cursed, because for me, most of them end up being misses. And especially, you know, remakes end up being misses. To me, his movies end up being misses. So a remake of one of his movies, they had a hit with it. So does that mean now that Pet Sematary is going to be a miss? I don't think so. I think Pet Sematary looks good. I think it looks really good. I'm going to give Pet Sematary a 5 out of 5 Rascals. This is crazy. Like, there's good movies coming out this weekend. Alright, let's see. The last movie I have to talk about is Shazam! And the synopsis of that from IMDb is, we all have a superhero inside of us. It just takes a bit of magic to bring it out. In Billy Batson's case, by shouting one word, Shazam, the streetwise 14-year-old foster kid can turn into an adult superhero, Shazam. Alright, so here is the trailer for Shazam!
Billy Batson, I choose you as a champion. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam.
Wait, for real?
Say the key! Say my name.
Shazam!
That's crazy, right?
What are your superpowers?
Superpowers, dude? I don't even know how to pee in this thing.
This is proof of authenticity. Super strength. Electricity manipulation. Hyperspeed.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
Is Captain Sparkle Fingers.
No, it's not. That's not my name.
Chosen one. Oh, you're like a bad guy, right?
You literally did the opposite of what a superhero is supposed to do.
You're him. You're the hero.
You're welcome for not getting wrong.
I'm Batman.
Get him back in!
How old are you?
Basically 15.
Did you see that?
Yeah, you electrocuted a bus and almost killed these people.
And then I caught it!
You leave tall buildings in a single bound.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Alright, so that was the trailer for Shazam! This is the latest DC movie, and I believe it is part of the DCEU. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think it is. Batman and Superman definitely exist in this world. We see a toy of Batman in this trailer. But I saw people pointing out that he's not using that DC logo that like zooms out with all the characters. At least not in the trailer. So maybe that's just a time issue, because that logo's long. So, I don't know. I think it is. I'm going to say it is part of this world. I mean, it's getting so confusing now. I mean, with Marvel, it's just like, like when Marvel makes a movie, you're like, yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you have these offshoots every once in a while now with like Venom, where people are like, it's not in there. And then other people arguing like, but it could be. But like with DC, but for the most part, when Marvel puts out a movie, you're like, it's in the cinematic universe. But now like when DC puts out a movie, it's like, holy shit, I have no idea. Like, you know, like the Joker's not going to be part of it. You know, who knows? So, but I think this is part of it. So eventually we could see Shazam hanging out with whoever they recast as Batman, and, you know, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, you know, Jason Momoa. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole "this is the real Captain Marvel" thing. It has to do with copyright bullshit, and if you're interested in that, there are probably, you know, thousands of videos on YouTube right now that can explain it to you. So if you're curious as to why Shazam is actually the real Captain Marvel, I would suggest just go type that into Google, and you'll see 1,000 videos pop up. I will say this, though. It was confusing the hell out of my 75-year-old dad, because he remembers Shazam as Captain Marvel, and he loves Captain Marvel, you know, from when he was a kid. Well, maybe a little, when he was a little bit older, but, you know, he remembers, like, growing up and reading Captain Marvel and seeing the Captain Marvel serials, and now it's like, wait a minute, Captain Marvel's a girl? Wait a minute, wait, no, now here's Captain Marvel movies coming out a month later, but it's called Shazam. It's really confusing my 75-year-old dad. But maybe he needs to watch one of these YouTube videos. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying that this movie is like Big, but with superhero, and yeah, that seems to be kind of what it is. Like, you know, Billy Batson is a 14-year-old who gets the power to become Shazam, given to him by a wizard who's also named Shazam. Anyways, but, you know, he turns into a full-grown man played by Zachary Levi. Fun fact, Zachary Levi used to be in the MCU. And I know you're going like, wait a minute, where? He played Fandral, one of the Warriors 3 in Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok. You know, so if you saw Thor: Ragnarok, spoiler, he died. So now he's free to be Shazam. Unless they bring him back after Endgame, if they reset everything, I don't know. What's that going to do? So anyways, in this trailer, we get scenes where he's like buying beer and doing other things adults can do. Like, that's funny. You know, that's a lot of humor. You know, that's kind of the same thing with Big. So that's cool. And then, you know, he's having a lot of fun time doing these things until Mark Strong as Dr. Thaddeus Savannah shows up and rains on his parade. Now, another fun fact, this is not Mark Strong's first DC movie. He played Sinestro in the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, but he didn't have his villain turn since they canceled the sequel. Like, there's an end credits scene where he goes yellow, and, like, so they were setting it up that he was going to be the big bad in the next movie, and then they were like, this movie sucks, we're not making another one. And then he's like, I'll never be Sinestro. Anyways, this movie looks really fun. It's light, it's filled with humor, and I think that really works for this character. Now, I've seen, you know, kind of a divide in the DCEU fanboys over this, because some don't like the new lighter tone that some of the DC movies are taking. But the truth is, you know, not all characters lend themselves to darkness. Aquaman was pretty light and made $1 billion, and people loved it. You know, now Shazam is light as well. But you don't have to worry, because, like, Joker's coming out and Birds of Prey's coming out. You know, the next Suicide Squad movie is in the works, and these are all going to be darker films. You know, so DC is doing a big mix-up. You know, so it just goes to show you that a studio doesn't need to make one style of superhero film. You know, and I know that, you know, the DC fanboys, you know, they like to say that all the MCU movies are the same, but I honestly don't think that they are. You know, true, none of them have gone too dark, but the movies are definitely different in tone. Anyways, I think Shazam looks good. Honestly, the trailer doesn't really give me goosebumps or anything like that, but it looks like a really enjoyable film. It looks like you could take your kids to go see it. I think you're going to have a heck of a time. I'm going to give Shazam a 5 out of 5 Rascals. It's crazy. Alright, so that's it for this week's show. Thanks for listening. Do a little recap. I gave The Best of Enemies a 5 out of 5, Pet Sematary a 5 out of 5, and Shazam a 5 out of 5. It's a crazy weekend. I think all three of those movies look good. If I had to pick one of those to go see this weekend, probably Shazam. That's probably the one that I'd definitely go see. I am a, you know, a comic book movie fan, so that's probably the one I would pick. But yeah, thanks for listening. Come back next week, because I'll do some more movie news, and I'll also talk about, looks like 4 movies are coming out next week that I'll talk about after Hellboy, Little, and Missing Link. So I'll talk about those 4. If you like what you heard, share it with your friends. Come back next week for more. You can follow me on Twitter at Bacon Knight. We can get into a discussion and we can block each other. It'll be fun. And until next time, everybody, just take it easy.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.